We're live. Hello, everyone. My name is Jared Hackbart. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Brilliance Business Solutions. I actually just celebrated my 5-year, crazy, Lori, my 5 years here at Brilliance, which super excited to still be here. Thank you for keeping me on staff.
Thank you for being here.
And I'm really excited about today's conversation, impressing your PE firm. It's funny because we work with a lot of organizations who either are acquired by a PE firm or are trying to be acquired by a PE firm, and we've yet to really touch on this topic. And I think it makes a lot of sense that as you're looking to impress your PE firm, that you're establishing a strong digital channel. And so I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with Lori, our resident e-commerce digital strategy expert. So Lori, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, happy to. So I started Brilliance a little more than 20 years ago. My background is in engineering. I went to Purdue in computer electrical engineering, and through an internship ended up at NASA Johnson Space Center, where I eventually worked as a flight controller for the space shuttle program, which is a super fun experience. I ended up meeting my husband there. He was also a flight controller at NASA, and he eventually went to work for Rockwell Automation, which is how we ended up in Milwaukee. He had a job promotion that led us here. And it was in 1998, and I was trying to figure out what could be as cool as space. So I decided to start a web development company. And 22-ish years later, we've grown quite a bit. My husband, Dave, left his job at Rockwell 9 years ago, and now he leads our development team. We've developed a niche in working with manufacturers and distributors and helping them to implement digital commerce solutions. And so I'm really excited about the conversation today because, as Jared said, we do work with a number of firms who who are owned by private equity firms or who are trying to be. And also the reality is, even if you're not in either of those categories, I think understanding what this looks like is good for every business owner because it's all about creating value in your business. So yeah, great conversation today.
Yeah, looking forward to it. All right, so let's kick it off. Impressing your private equity firm. I think it's I'm looking forward to hearing what our CEO founder has to say as a business owner. But I think from the sales perspective, there's a lot that seems just like naturally, of course, like this is what we want to be doing. You want to see your business be successful in order for a private equity firm to want to show interest in you or impress the current one that you belong to. But more so than that, I think there are some key points in terms of where you stand in the market compared to your competitors and what competitive advantages you bring to the table when you look at your competition. Establishing multiple avenues of growth and not only establishing those multiple avenues of growth, but showing consistent and steady growth through those channels. Outside of that, there's of course, the favorable industry trends, and most importantly, driving results. I mean, naturally, we all want to see results come through those organizations. I know before you jump in on touching on some of those topics, I want to touch on how, well, just at a high level, I think there's a natural transition from stable and multiple avenues of growth and a digital commerce solution.
Definitely.
Lord, thoughts?
Yeah, well, yeah, many thoughts. I think also just purely from a business perspective, I think thinking about, I think about how important it is to be strategic about growth. And to your point, Jared, like really thinking about like what is your market position and how do you compete? And the reality is that in today's economy, digital is a part of that for everyone. Like that's something that you need to be thinking about. And for many of the companies we work with, they may have a manufacturer or distributor that may have been around 50 to 100 years. They haven't had, to leverage digital as a part of their growth for quite some time. And so this really represents a new strategy that will be important to them. And, you referenced industry trends. The reality is we can definitely see industry trends that are showing that digital is important for manufacturers and distributors. It's becoming a part of what leading organizations in that space are doing. And so it needs to be a part of your plans for growth. I think, Jared, we've got a Digital Commerce 360 article that kind of speaks to that, that we can share, and really just goes to the fact that like you should be thinking and paying attention to what other leaders in your space are doing, and not making the assumption that you can just get by on what you've done in the past. That it's really about thinking about what it looks like to lead and grow and innovate moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, Lori referenced this Digital Commerce 360 article. And if you're not familiar, I'm assuming most are with this publication, this organization. They have a lot of great content out here. I'd recommend going and taking a look. Specifically, this article touches on, there's some really interesting stats, specifically how there was a huge increase in 2019 for overall digital commerce. Outside of that, even looking at 2020 with everything that happened, there was already an increase for manufacturers and distributors there as well. Is there anything else in here that you want to specifically call out, Lori? I think, to your point, lessons were learned in 2020 around where you need to be investing. And digital commerce is clearly one of those areas that has demonstrated that it can be a successful channel for organizations despite a pandemic. And
Right.
This article really speaks to that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it speaks to, and you reference it in terms of COVID-19 has just really accelerated the trends that already were there. And we've certainly seen that with our clients that, organizations were already seeing the benefit and the need for digital commerce before COVID-19. But now that has just become really clear and accelerated how quickly buyers are moving to not only like preferring digital, but like requiring it in many senses. So yes. And, the other thing I think about when we talk about like market position and competitive advantage is the fact that that digital commerce is not simply like selling a product, adding a product to your cart and checking out. Like really for manufacturers and distributors, there are all sorts of ways that digital can be a part of innovating in terms of like creating value for your customers. And I know we're going to talk more about that later, Jared, but like there's just so much to how you can create a space in the market for yourself as an organization that is unique, leveraging digital tools, and that offers a lot of opportunity that really will get the attention and notice of investors who are looking for companies that are doing something strategic and innovative.
Completely agree. All right, so everything a private equity firm wants to see, as we touched on at a very high level at the beginning, the market position, competitive advantage, multiple avenues of growth, and seeing that stable growth, looking at favorable industry trends and ultimately driving results through that work, it really embodies the idea of leveraging technology in a digital commerce solution. So why should, outside of all of that, Lori, do you have any thoughts on why a small business should embrace an e-commerce platform?
Well, yes. So the interesting and exciting thing about digital is that it both represents opportunities for like sales growth and revenue growth, and also offers opportunities for operational efficiency and like increasing your margins, which also like. Obviously, that's something that private equity is interested in. Also creates opportunities for recurring revenue. And like I know, Jared, earlier you referenced like new revenue streams. Like you can create new ways of adding value. Like as an example, you could have a subscription service that offers customers information, like maybe reporting and data on how they use your products, or content that is of value to them, or training. Like there are new ways you could potentially offer services in addition to what you do today in a way that's going to add value and differentiate you in the market. And in the beginning, it doesn't, that can sound pretty overwhelming when you think of all of that. But in the beginning, the great thing about digital is like it's all about like getting started with some piece and then kind of growing over time.
Absolutely. I'd echo in that same point. for small, when we're speaking specifically about small businesses, their sales staffs are usually, small. They usually have maybe one, maybe two individuals who are out pounding the pavement, trying to draw up new business for their organization. And when you leverage an e-commerce solution for these manufacturers and distributors who have a small sales staff, you're putting in place a tool that allows the sales staff to focus on opportunity that's more profitable for the organization, that makes a bigger impact for the organization, and allowing that e-commerce solution then to focus on the simpler things, the things that an organization, that your customers might order on a recurring basis. That takes time from a sales rep to sit there and take an order and sit on the phone, and before you know it, you spent 30, 45 minutes just having general conversation and trying to sell them on additional things. Whereas if they know there's something that they can order through their e-commerce solution, it allows them to go through that channel and keeping your sales staff, have their eye on the ball, essentially focus on the bigger, more impactful things. But what I'd like to touch on, taking a step back from why an organization, a small business specifically, should be leveraging an e-commerce platform, what have we seen from our prospects and customers that's keeping them from investing in digital commerce?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think part of it sometimes can just be the fear of the unknown. Typically this isn't necessarily the skill set that people have internally, and it's something that there can be some concerns about entering that space. Disrupting your channel, your existing channels, can be a concern. Disrupting your sales team, like getting sales team buy-in, can be a reason that there can be some concerns that hold people back. And I think also just, anytime you haven't done something, anytime you don't have experience doing something, there can be some anxiety about moving forward. You can have a lot of fears around what might go wrong. It's, in my mind, those are the things that hold people back. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, you touched on salespeople, and it's funny to me that even in 2021, we're still having conversations with organizations who are fearful of how their sales team is going to react to a digital commerce solution. And in my experience now, prior to Brilliance, I was selling mobile applications as well as some legacy type items like print. And so as I look back on all of that, it's just funny to me that there's still this mindset of it's going to take away from the sales team. There are ways to leverage an e-commerce solution to not only support your business and your sales reps. I'm actually working on an article right now that I need to get out here sooner rather than later around how you can compensate a sales staff while leveraging a digital commerce solution, and how to incentivize your sales team through that channel as well. But that I think, to me, with a sales background, is one of the most interesting and pivotal conversations that we have with prospects around, that fear of taking away from their sales team. And so, transitioning from the what's keeping small business now from investing in a commerce solution, there are so many options out there these days. I mean, we are getting hit with, inundated with information, whether it's through your social channels and, even on, commercials I'm seeing these days that are advertising, leveraging a digital commerce solution. And we're all incredibly familiar with it because of the big name brands like Amazon and Walmart who are currently doing all of this.
Yeah.
But diving into how these organizations now navigate selecting a platform, that can be a daunting task for an organization. What would you say to someone out there who is looking to start some research on where they should begin that research, what they should be looking for, and who should they turn to, essentially?
Yeah, those are great questions, because I think sometimes the mistake that can be made is an organization might get to a point where they're ready to move forward. They know they need to invest in digital commerce, but because they don't have a lot of background in it, they might end up picking a tool or software that just is a name that they've heard of or seen, is familiar to them, maybe is familiar to their marketing agency, and it might not really be the best tool for their long-term strategic growth. And so as I think as a president of a manufacturer or a distributor, like, you don't necessarily need to understand all of the technology, but you should know what types of research that your team should be doing, what things they should be looking at to ask questions. One thing I would suggest is, like, look at multiple software platforms and understand the pros and cons of each. Like, every platform has strengths and weaknesses, and places where it fits and places where it doesn't. And so if whomever is talking to you about a platform can't speak to its weaknesses and its strengths, and all you're hearing about is how great it is, ask more questions, get more information. And one of the ways, and I'm an engineer, I like data, I like information. So as we've grown, we've done a lot of research around, like, what platforms make the most sense for the companies we work with. I'm pretty transparent about pros and cons of the platforms we work with too. But I would suggest that as people who are investigating this, that you look and do your own research. A really great resource is the Gartner Magic Quadrant. We really value our relationship with Gartner Research and the information that we get from them. So I would recommend taking a look at it. And there are different Magic Quadrants. And this one here that Jared's got up on the screen is the Magic Quadrant for digital experience platforms. And this is a really, you can actually get this report from the Episerver website, which is one of the software platforms that we work with, is Episerver Optimizely, now Optimizely. One of the great things about the Gartner Magic Quadrant is it provides a comparison. So that grid that you can't see super well, but you can see if you actually download that report in much more detail, it's showing you, like, where different software platforms rank, and which ones are leaders and which ones are challengers, and it's giving you information about why they rank there. And it's important to understand that what you're looking at here is a Magic Quadrant for digital experience platforms, which is more than just digital commerce. It includes digital commerce, but it also includes showing, like, content and leveraging artificial intelligence for serving your customer better. And really, like, the entire digital experience for your customers is what's ranked on this Magic Quadrant, which I think is an important question for companies to understand. Is, in your digital strategy, are you just looking to create something that's going to sell products, or are you looking to create a digital experience? And certainly trends are moving towards this idea of digital experience. It really depends on what your digital goals and ambitions are.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you referenced that there's other Magic Quadrants.
Yes.
And here's another example of an organization that we partner with called BigCommerce, and they list out do you know what specifically this Magic? I'm sorry, which Magic Quadrant this one's in reference?
Well, so BigCommerce is in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for digital commerce, and here also is referenced that they're a strong performer in the Forrester Wave, which is Forrester's another research organization that has their comparison report as a Forrester Wave report. So those are other good reports to look at as a part of doing your research. And as you'll see here on the page Jared's showing, is, like, there's a lot of really great content in terms of trends in B2B, in the industry, what other organizations are doing. And you can get a lot of really great information by going to different software vendors' websites like this, and like Episerver and Optimizely, and looking at the resources they have. I recommend that you look at more than one. Like, to me, that's a great way of doing your research, and look at some of these comparison reports that exist from research organizations like Gartner and Forrester.
Yeah, I'd add in there as well. Speaking of research, I've been really impressed with a couple of the prospects that we've worked with over the last 6 months. They did an outstanding job of doing research on their own. Specifically, what I found most profound over their process and their approach was, they included many departments, and that's something that I feel like in our experience there are organizations that get a little bit of tunnel vision, I guess, in some sense, where you forget to include the operations. You need to include marketing, obviously IT, and so having the right people in the room to support your research process, I think, can be such a pivotal point in your discovery and allow you to make the right decision as you're looking at platforms, because there are so many facets of e-commerce that affect the various departments, the various pieces of your organization, that it's so important to have the right people in the room.
Yeah, definitely. And to your point, so research is like, in part, what I was talking about was like research on software platform, but also you need to kind of understand your own internal organization and like what touch points you're going to want to incorporate digital into, and how, and get their buy-in in the process. And
Yeah.
digital isn't just about sales. Like to your point, Jared, it affects operations. Like it can help you fulfill on orders faster, but that means you need to talk with your team that's doing that and make sure, you can integrate your systems together. It's also about like showing customers when something's shipped. It can impact and improve customer service offerings and returns. Like there's just so many ways digital can be a part of improving your business.
Absolutely. So I know we kind of touched on this whole conversation has really hit on this question at a high level, but I want to make sure I close the loop. And if there's anything that you'd like to add into, what's the business case for small manufacturers and distributors? I mean, I know we've to be selling online specifically. I know we've touched on some points, but again, do you have anything you would add?
Well, yeah, I would add, increasing your revenue, so more potential, another sales channel or potential ways to reach customers that you haven't been in the past. Expanding your sales to your existing customers. So I know many of our clients have seen that they sell more to existing clients that start using digital because they become more aware of other products that they might not have been aware of, and it's easier for them to order. So those are all ways to increase revenue. And then I know we mentioned briefly, but like also increasing your operational efficiency or lowering your costs associated with delivering on your sales, which increases your margins. And a lot of organizations have seen that too as a part of implementing digital.
Wonderful. All right. So I know our conversation today is titled How to Impress Your PE Firm, but I mean, at the root of impressing your PE firm, you need to be impressing your customers and supporting your customers.
Right.
So I think it'd be great if you and I talk on a few points around how to support your customers through a digital commerce channel, and why it supports this, or why it would ultimately support your customers. So the first point I want to kind of touch on here is in regards to convenience. I mean, it seems so simple, but it is truly that. It's the level of convenience you can provide a customer, whether it's just placing an order, which seems pretty standard, but setting recurring orders. I think you had mentioned that a little bit earlier in regards to that process, looking up your order history. Ultimately, anything you can possibly do with an e-commerce channel, make your customers' lives more convenient, is really the goal of what an e-commerce solution can provide.
Definitely. And I would add to that, if you're a manufacturer and you sell through distributors, you want to think about the convenience for your distributors, also the convenience potentially for your end customer. So some manufacturers are making a choice that in certain areas that they are selling direct to their end customer, and that can't. So if you have distributors who might not be offering all of your product line, or might not be able to share when a product will get to someone, they can add convenience that way too, which obviously represents a threat to distributors who might have manufacturers going around them. Also a reason distributors need to be paying attention and investing in digital commerce so they can add enough convenience and value that their customers will stay with them when those threats start coming.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect transition into the next point I would touch on. Is you reference order for fulfillment. We've all become accustomed to the convenience of Amazon's 2-day delivery and those expectations that you have. But even if it's not, a 2-day delivery, having those expectations, giving your customers that confidence and knowing that I placed this order, this is when I can expect to receive it at, the click of a button, essentially, is vital to an organization that depends on the order that they're placing.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the reality is, as consumers, our expectations have changed in terms of, we now, I know I often will think, well, I can, place that order today and expect to get it by in the next few days, just because that's the way Amazon has changed our world.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that people, when they start having those expectations set, those don't just stick to, their personal life. They start to want to expect those same things in a business setting too. So definitely, and to your point, even if you can't provide that kind of a turnaround, even if you setting those clear expectations is, if I can know with confidence when my that product I'm ordering is being delivered, I'm going to feel better about placing an order than I will with someone that it's really vague information.
Absolutely.
Or I have a bad experience, something doesn't come for a really long time after I think it will, I'm going to be less likely to continue to order from that place.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you look at, again, super high level here, combining the idea of convenience and having that confidence then in a very easy to use system, to me, is what leads to creating that loyalty in your customer base. If I can come to your site, I know it works, I know when I'm going to get my orders, it just, you want to then continue to use that process. Just makes things so much easier. So at a very high level, I guess I just want to touch on the fact that I think leveraging those two very simple facets lead to a successful e-commerce solution, and therefore hopefully customer base.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But going beyond that, I mean, technology is rapidly changing, and e-commerce is definitely a part of that. And there are all sorts of cool new technology to be in consistently impressing your clients, your customers. And we have now, personally, our organization has done a few of these things, a lot of these things, but I think it'd be fun to kind of run through maybe some features, some opportunities for organizations who have taken those initial steps, and now it's time to move past and really start to impress their customers more. So the first one that always comes to my mind, because we recommend it every time we get the chance to, is the idea of leveraging a live chat solution. We personally use it on our site. I love having it. It's funny because our organization, Lori, myself, Lori obviously sit on our leadership team, and our director of development, I won't say his name, but you can look him up if you like, would give us a hard time about how the live chat solution that we are going to use on our site was not going to drive opportunity. And
he was skeptical.
Yeah, there you go. He's very skeptical.
Yes.
And I am very happy to report that it certainly has, and more so, it's an extension of our sales staff. We have the ability to answer questions for people who may not want to have to pick up the phone and call someone to learn something about us or one of the platforms that we support. They just want a quick answer on something, and it's been a really beneficial tool.
Definitely. And we've heard from our clients. Many of our clients have implemented live chat, and they've found that they sell more through it, that it improves customer service, just lots of benefits. The reality is people don't, especially like as demographics shift younger, don't necessarily want to pick up a phone and call you. And so having live chat as an opportunity for people to engage with you is a really great way to go.
I completely agree. Lori, are there any specific features or recommendations that you'd like to hit?
Sure. Oh, well, there are many, but so one I will talk about is the idea of the power of content and content management as a part of your digital solution. And when we talk about that, for me, it's important to think through, especially when we're talking about small and mid-market manufacturers and distributors, because when we talk about selling online, you might think that it's most important to have your products and your add to cart, and that checkout experience. But the reality is, it is I think a real opportunity to kind of punch above your weight, to have a really great content strategy as a part of that as well. Because what you get to do is, your advantage compared to your much larger competitors is that you have this body of internal expertise that you can share through your content and develop a relationship with your buyers, with your prospects. And so they, if you have content on your site that helps to build confidence in your expertise as an organization and help people to understand how to buy your product, that's another thing that will help people come back more and more, is because it builds trust that, like, you're an organization who knows what you're doing. You can help me find the right product. And so really, I just would make sure that you think about how you're going to leverage content as a part of your digital strategy in a way that complements your digital commerce. I think it's advantageous to not have like a digital commerce site on one stack and your content in another, to really have that all as a part of the same solution. I think is a great way to go.
Completely agree. And outside of the content management capabilities, there's some really cool things happening in both the platforms we support. But I'll touch on Episerver specifically, and their Episerver now Optimizely. And so, speaking to Optimizely and their claim to fame being the experimentation industry, well, I don't even know if I call it industry, but experimentation vertical. Can you speak to what experimentation would mean to a manufacturer and distributor, and why they'd be interested in leveraging something like this?
Yeah, so this is all about the idea of testing out, like in the process of trying new things, which is, as a business, we always should be about testing and measuring. And digital provides a really great opportunity to test and measure. And experimentation is the idea that you can run really great tests online and have certain users see one experience and other users see a different experience. Maybe just changing, a button color or something about your mini cart or add to cart button, and seeing how those changes perform. And gathering data on that and allowing the data to help inform you about what changes are best for your site. So that's classically been the idea around like A/B testing and experimentation. One of the things I find really exciting about Optimizely is that they have another product that I think can be of a lot of interest to the small and mid-market manufacturer and distributor. And it's something called feature flags and progressive rollouts. And this is where, one of the challenges for A/B testing is that for a lot of small and mid-market manufacturers and distributors, they don't have enough traffic to their site to enable them to do those A/B tests quickly and get good data. But with the feature flags and progressive rollouts, this is the idea that you, instead of like deploying a change on a certain date for everyone, that when you have new features or functionality for your site, that you only roll it out to, say, 10% of your users or less, and you get data on how that's doing. And then over time, you progressively roll it out to everyone, or not, if the change is not doing well. And so this is an opportunity to leverage experimentation as a part of how you deliver new functionality to your digital experience. And the reality is, I think all of us as businesses can benefit from thinking about how we leverage experimentation and data as a part of our decision making.
Absolutely. All right, so I know we've gone a little bit over 30 minutes here, but I'd like to just wrap up in conclusion. The whole purpose of our conversation was around how you can impress your PE firm, and ultimately what we're saying here is leveraging a digital commerce solution and other technology that comes with a digital commerce solution is a very wise way to go, because ultimately your PE firms are looking to see operational efficiency. They want to see you grow your market share. What better way to do that than leveraging an e-commerce solution? And ultimately, they want to see that consistency, not only in your growth, but in your organization from a leadership perspective and down. Is there anything that you would add into our conversation that you would like to tie this up with?
Well, at the end of the day, it's really about creating more value for customers, which I know we hit on, and doing it in a way that's strategic, that positions yourself uniquely from others in your space. And, I think, and you referenced it, Jared, earlier, that the fact that, many of the organizations that we work with, they have much larger competitors potentially that they're competing against. Mm-hmm. And digital is an opportunity for you to for you to compete on in a much different way than you have in the past, to really open up new avenues that you might not otherwise have the opportunity to. So definitely, I think it's something that should be a part of every organization's strategy as they think about their growth.
Absolutely. I think people are sick of hearing it, but 2020 certainly should have taught some lessons around how using a digital commerce channel can be vital to your organization. And yeah, we hope that you enjoyed the conversation today, that there was some good information in this, and have a great day.